Good morning. So I just added an updated version of the Spark Cast on Critical Blood Mage to my Mobalytics guide, which I think might actually be the final and ultimate version of this character. This is probably the highest this build can go, reaching a critical damage bonus of over 1000 while also still being crit cap at 100% and maintaining an energy shield of, in this case, of over 6000. I was actually kind of hesitant about making this a build guide type video, since the gear that is on my Blood Mage here is of course really high end and very, very expensive. But I think this version of the Blood Mage can still reach similar heights in terms of damage and tankiness, even if you can't acquire the gear that I have here. It is still, in my opinion, the best version of this character if you can make it work. In the end, due to diminishing returns, reaching over 1000 critical damage bonus like this is not even really something logical to aim for anyways. So if you are interested in any other iterations of this Spark CoC Blood Mage, which is definitely one of the strongest builds in this league, I have a bunch of different versions on my Mobalytic page, including a more budget-friendly version using the Mask of the Sanguinemancer and a high rarity version for mapping. Also, if you ever have any questions about this build or any other, come to my stream on Twitch, where I stream every single day, and I am always happy to answer any questions that may arise. So let's get into this absolutely min-max version of the Cast on Critical Blood Mage. So, like mentioned before, the critical hit chance for this build are, of course, crit cap at 100%, and we are also reaching a critical damage bonus of over 1000 in this case. The actual critical damage bonus that is getting shown in the Path of Building is actually more closer to 1200, due to some visual bugs in the Blood Mage Ascendancy with Gore Spike and stuff. There is a number here that is not the actual one. So in the game, we are only seeing 1067. In the POB, it's actually more closer to 1200. So like I mentioned before though, getting over 1000 is absolutely not needed. It's not even recommended. You shouldn't really try to go for this number. It is way too high. I just saw the 900 yesterday when rebuilding this character, and I kind of went, okay, we have to go for the 1000 here. This is not something you should harp too much on. Getting anything over 600, 700 in the critical damage bonus here is gonna be more than enough for this character. The difference in effect you feel after like 600 is not gonna be felt that much. So you don't need this much. You can go into other stuff. You can even maybe go for rarity if you're a mapping, or you can go for even more energy shield. In this case, you don't need this much critical damage bonus. So our tooltip DPS for Lightning Bolt here is over 100,000. If we take off Spell Echo, it's even more. It's 150,000. So let's go over the skill tips here. We are using a Lightning Bolt from Cry of the Storm, of course, with Ingenuity, Considered Casting, Concentrated Effect, and Spell Echo. The 100 Spirit we are using here, so we are only using the 100 Spirit we get from campaign. 90 of them are in Cast on Critical, and the remaining 10 are Magnetism for Life Remnants. For mapping, when you actually reach this kind of damage here, with a Spark DPS, for example, here of 62,000, you don't really need Cast on Critical for mapping. Cast on Critical with 3 arcs in here, you don't really need that for mapping anyways. So you can just turn it off and then use Blink on weapon set 1 and also Arctic Armor for another defensive layer. So that is also going to cost us the 100 Spirit here. For mapping, you just don't need the Cast on Critical, the arcs. This is basically only needed for pinnacle bossing. This only goes though if you really have the damage that I have here. If you feel like you need Cast on Critical for mapping, keep it on. You can use 3 arcs in Cast on Critical. You can also use 2 arcs in Cast on Critical with Elemental Focus slotted in here. That is also possible. But in this case, I really do not need it for mapping. Just the Spark and the Lightning Bolt is more than enough to do anything in maps, to kill anything in maps. Even the map bosses are just dead in a few seconds with this setup. So I can use the added defensive layer of Arctic Armor and the added mobility of having Blink in weapon set 1 here. So Spark we are using with Pierce, Acceleration, Mobility, Inspiration, and Arcane Tempo. Cast on Critical, like I mentioned before, you have some choices here. I am currently using Arc, Arc, and Arc, with energy retention and impetus. So impetus and energy retention. What you can also do for mapping, for example, if you're using Cast on Critical for mapping, my recommendation here would be using 1 arc, 1 spark, and elemental focus. That is, in my opinion, the best setup for mapping, because you don't need 3 arcs for mapping, but rather just use arc, spark, and elemental focus. What you could also do is 2 arcs and elemental focus. Also possible like that. For bossing, I just recommend using 3 arcs with impetus and energy retention. So Blink here, we're using with energy barrier and unbreakable. If you want a lower cooldown on Blink, you can also use Ingenuity here. Arctic Armor, I'm using with Cold Mastery, Glaciation, Frost Nexus, and Bludgeon. Convalescence, of course, is on weapon set 2. This is very important to get our energy shield recharged. This is also possible using with Ingenuity. If you're using Ingenuity in Convalescence, you can on Lightning Bolt use Elemental Focus, for example, or Deliberation to get the damage up here. But I really like Ingenuity in Lightning Bolt. But if you feel like you want more, you want less cooldown on your Convalescence buff to get your energy shield back faster, you can also use Ingenuity on Convalescence. So Orb of Storms with Magnified Effect, Super Critical, Overcharge, Overabundance, and Font of Blood. And for bossing, of course, we're also using Soul Offering with Minion Mastery, Ablation, Danse Macabre, Persistence, and we have the Skeletal Cleric to offer up for the Soul Offering. For bossing, of course, also Sigil of Power. This is just the standard setup. So for bossing, we just use Sigil. We use Soul Offering for the extra damage to just melt any boss in seconds. So let's go over the gear really quick here. This is just going to be shown in the Mobalytics as well. Like I said multiple times now, the gear is very, very expensive here. So you don't need that much, but I kind of went for the absolutely min-max version here. So on the wand, you want as high critical hit chance for spells as possible. This goes for both the wand and the focus. The more critical hit chance for spells you can get on the wand and focus here, or on your gear in general, the less points you have to spend on that on jewels and on nodes on the passive tree. So basically, the more critical hit chance for spells you get on your gear, that means the more critical spell damage bonus you can get in jewels and on the passive tree. So getting as much critical hit chance for spells on both the wand and the focus is the #1 priority. Same goes for the helmet here. You want a very high critical hit chance for spells on this one as well, and on both of the Seed of Cataclysms here. So this is the way I am almost crit capped already just with the gear. With a Series Acuity, with a 2 Seed of Cataclysms, with this wand, with this focus, and this helmet, I'm almost already crit capped on just the gear. So I don't have to take any crit nodes on the passive tree. If you do not reach that kind of heights on the gear in critical hit chance, you will have to take the critical hit chance nodes on the passive tree, or get more jewels with the double critical hit chance and critical hit chance for spells. And then you would have to make some things lower in the critical damage bonus. So also what is boosting our critical hit chance and critical damage bonus is the Ingenuity here, due to the Seed of Cataclysms here. So that is offensively what you want. Of course, we are also using Choir of the Storm. I have anointed Cooked on this one for even more critical damage bonus. And defensively, on all the gear choices we are making here, we want as high energy shield as we can get, while also maintaining maybe even some maximum life. So getting maximum life is a nice bonus. On the chest, I don't have it here, and on the boots, I have it as well. So getting maximum life is a nice bonus. We need a healthy life pool to be able to cast our spells, of course. So getting a little bit of maximum life will also be good. But the biggest priority is high energy shield on all of these bases here. So next thing, let's go into the passive tree. Like I mentioned, jewels are very, very important for this build. So I have basically the maximum amount of jewel slots you can get here on this passive tree. So for all the jewels we have here, we are also using maximum energy shield on every single one. Then I am already using a critical damage bonus and critical spell damage bonus on every single one, because I'm almost crit capped just by my gear. I think I have one. Yeah, see this one. This is the only jewel I have that has a critical hit chance and critical hit chance for spells. But all the other ones for me are gonna be critical damage bonus, all of them. So every single jewel is basically the same. maximum energy shield, priority number 1 on the jewel, then critical damage bonus, critical spell damage bonus. If you are not crit capped, you can also get critical hit chance and critical hit chance for spells. And then as the 4th one, it's either elemental damage or spell damage. That is every single jewel on the passive tree here. The passive tree, of course, will also be in the mobility, so you can see that at your own will. The progression here, I am level 98 on this Blood Mage, so the progression here is also when you actually are not crit capped, or if you're, let's say you're over 90% crit, for example, you should get the ES nodes first, or if you want more tankiness, you should get the ES nodes. If you need more crit, you get the crit nodes, of course. If you want more critical damage bonus, you get the critical damage bonus nodes. So don't worry if you can't spend as many points as I do here. You can also forego maybe some points down here, so you don't have to path here or something, and you just leave out barbaric strength for now and just leave out all these points. This already saves you like 9 points. So this is gonna be it for this character. I wanted to keep this as short as possible since I've already done a few Blood Mage builds so far. So I have a plethora of Blood Mage builds on my Mobalytics. So if you wanna go through them, go check them out on my Mobalytics. Other than that, please come to the Twitch stream. Maybe I am streaming every single day. That is the main way of getting in touch with me or asking some questions, is my Twitch stream. We have a really nice community on Discord as well. So if you want to join us a little bit to theorycraft or whatever you want to do, come join us on the Twitch stream at twitch.tv/deadrabbit. So thank you so much for watching. See you on the next one. Love you. Bye.